I am Reed. I am 27, just an average dude. I've made tons of money mistakes in my 20s, and now I want to share everything I've learned to help you take control of your finances and your life. Oh shit, guys, I almost messed up big time. Like the kind of mess up that keeps you awake at night thinking about all the money you could have made today. I want to talk about an insane opportunity that honestly I nearly let slip away and how you can avoid making the same mistake. We're talking about a gold project, the Red Hill Gold Project, and why it is such a big deal, especially for a guy like me who is always looking for those smart, calculated plays to build wealth. Now, before I dive in, let me just give you a little background on why I even stumbled onto this. You know, my story, right? Started out in my early 20s, broke, living paycheck to paycheck, had some small debts, just kind of drifting, no real plan for my money, no real plan for my life, honestly. It was a mess. But then I had that moment, that aha moment, where I realized I needed to get my act together, so I started learning, reading, listening, and most importantly, making changes. I paid off my debt, built up an emergency fund, and started looking for smart, long-term investments. I am not some fancy finance guru. I am just a normal guy who figured some stuff out and wants to share what I've learned from my own screw-ups. So, the Red Hill Gold Project, this thing is located just 12 kilometers from Barrick's Gold Rush discovery. Yeah, Barrick, one of the biggest names in mining, and they hit it big there, really big. When I first heard about Red Hill, I was intrigued, but also a bit hesitant. You know how it is. Sometimes things sound too good to be true. My initial thought was, okay, cool, a project near a major discovery, that is interesting for sure, but I wasn't fully grasping the magnitude of the opportunity. My focus was a bit scattered, looking at various things, and Red Hill was just one of many potentials. I was almost ready to just let it sit there, maybe transact on it, flip it, whatever. Just not really invest in it myself. That is the first mistake, guys, underestimating something because you are not looking deep enough. Here's the deal though, Red Hill was actually drilled back in 2006 by Barrick themselves, and they hit a 100+ meter gram hole at depth, around 650 meters down. We're talking about roughly 25 meters of 5 grams and then 13.1 meters of just over 8 grams. Now to a newbie, those numbers might not mean much, but trust me, those are very, very good hits at the time. Barrick thought that was deep. They were like, yeah, that is deep. But here's where it gets crazy. When you look at discoveries like Goldstrike, or especially the 4 Mile discovery, which has been Barrick's new baby, 4 Mile has captured a lot of attention. Mark Bristow, the former CEO, talked about 4 Mile being potentially bigger than Goldstrike, which produced 13 million ounces at 10 grams in its underground portion. And with even higher grades, and guess what? 4 Mile is in that same range, about 13 miles from Red Hill along the same trend. The key difference, they drilled deeper, where we hadn't even gotten into what is known as the Windfall Formation. They did. They went about 100 meters deeper than our previous drilling, and they re-hitting this massive deposit. This is where I realized my mistake. I was looking at the surface level information, the previous drilling, and thinking, okay, that is good. But I wasn't connecting the dots with the new deeper discoveries being made practically next door. It is like looking at a small ripple in a pond and not realizing there is a giant fish underneath creating it. Red Hill has so many similarities to these massive discoveries, where it is, how it was initially found, and the fact that we haven't drilled deep enough. This isn't just interesting anymore, it is incredibly compelling. It is now rising to the top of our portfolio. We were actually pausing discussions on potentially selling it because we were likely going to drill it ourselves. Why? Because the potential upside is just too massive to ignore. My early 20s self, the one who was just trying to pay off debt and figure out what a mutual fund was, would have just seen the surface level data and moved on. But the person I am now, who has learned to dig deeper, to understand the context, to see the bigger picture, recognize this was a moment. It is not about jumping into every shiny object, but about understanding the fundamentals and the real potential. And this, my friends, has real potential. The financial position of American Pacific Mining is another huge piece of this puzzle that helps to risk it. This isn't some tiny junior miner scraping by. They have nearly 20 million in equity holdings, another 20 million in milestone payments coming in, and 14 million in cash. Seriously, think about that for a second. This almost covers their entire market cap of 45 million. What does this mean for us, the shareholders? It means we're not constantly worried about the company having to go out and raise more money, diluting our shares. They've got the capital to get aggressive, both at Madison, their flagship copper, gold project in Montana, and now at Red Hill, that 15,000 meter drill program at Madison. That is going to cost a good 6 to 7 million Canadian dollars. And drilling at Red Hill will be a couple million more. They have all that capital and then some. This is a lesson for anyone looking at investments, not just in mining. You want to see a strong balance sheet. You want to see a company that can fund its own growth without constantly hitting up the market for more cash. This significantly reduces the risk for shareholders, which is huge. It is like having a solid financial foundation for your own life. You wouldn't build a house on quicksand, right? Same principle here. They've also been smart with their transactions. They've sold assets like Palmer to Vizsla Copper and to Tusora to ICG Silver and Gold, but here is the kicker. They were careful to sell to teams they believe can actually advance those projects and have success, and they retaking back equity in those companies. So they not just cashing out and moving on, they becoming shareholders themselves in projects they believe in. That is backing good horses, as they say. They own 15.7% of Vizsla Copper, which is a very strong group. The guys behind it have taken 3 companies over $2 billion. So they not just making deals, they making smart deals. They want to see their equity book worth roughly $50 million. That is more than their market cap today, which means a lot of room for growth without needing to constantly raise new capital. This protects the downside while leaving the upside uncapped. It's like when I was getting my own finances in order. I didn't just pay off debt, I also started building up savings and making small, smart investments that could grow over time. It is about creating multiple streams of potential growth and protection. Now, let us quickly touch on copper, because Madison is a copper-gold project, and copper is a huge story right now, guys. We are facing a copper crisis. Seriously, I hadn't heard it phrased that way until recently, but it is probably the most accurate way to describe it. Every American needs 12 pounds of copper each year just to maintain their standard of living. That is insane when you think about it. Humanity has mined 700 million metric tons of copper in the last 10,000 years, and we need the same amount over the next 18 years. Just to keep up with today's lifestyle, that would require 6 new Tier 1 copper discoveries, and it takes an average of 17 years from discovery to production. The math just doesn't add up. We're talking about global power demands rising by 50% by 2040. That means adding like 330 Hoover Dam-type assets over the next 15 years. Where is all that copper going to come from? There just isn't enough to go around. That is why projects like Madison, especially in the US, are so critical. Copper is in your phone, your laptop, your home pipes, your wiring, and especially in electric vehicles. A conventional car uses 18 to 50 pounds of copper, but a plug-in hybrid uses 85, and a Tesla uses like 120. If you are going green, you are going green via copper. There is no other way, and there is no substitute for it. Not a good one. Anyway, to make matters even more complicated, even if we find enough copper, the US only has 2 copper smelters compared to 16 in China. So even if we mine it, we have to ship it to China to be refined and then sent back. This creates massive supply chain vulnerabilities. It is a long-term problem that requires a long-term solution. And building smelters takes decades, not years. So when you look at a company with high-grade copper projects in the US, you start to see why it is such a compelling story. It's not just about the metal price, it's about strategic importance and a looming global shortage. And gold. What is gold telling us right now? I think it is telling us something important. We live in a highly volatile world. Gold is a flight to safety. It is up significantly over the last 5 years, telling us that people are seeking stability amidst global uncertainty. We're also not finding as much gold as we used to. Mines are deeper, lower grade, and in more challenging parts of the world. This is why the US is becoming more mining friendly, realizing the need for homegrown metals and not relying on other countries. So why pay attention to American Pacific mining right now? It is unique in the junior mining space. They fully funded, have tons of cash, lots of equities, they've shown. They can make smart transactions both buying and selling, which is not common. They have 2 incredibly compelling Western U.S. assets with historically spectacular grades. They about to launch their largest and most well-informed drill campaign ever at Madison, aiming for those deep shots that can create massive gains. And now, they looking to drill Red Hill, a project with the potential for 5 to 10 million ounce deposits. Right next to a Barrick discovery, they in a position where their downside is protected by cash and equities, but their upside is uncapped. This is why I got excited. This is why I almost kicked myself for not seeing it sooner. It's about finding those unique situations where the risk is managed. But the potential reward is huge. It's like when I finally started budgeting and realized I had way more money than I thought, and then I could use that for smart investments instead of just blowing it. It is about taking control, being informed, and making calculated moves. This is how you build wealth, piece by piece, opportunity by opportunity. Peace.